aufzeichnen. Genau, ich habe nochmal zusammengefasst, was 350 ist und was 350 eigentlich macht. Ich werde da jetzt nicht mehr ins Detail gehen, weil beim letzten Mal haben wir das schon besprochen. Ihr könnt das aber sehr gerne nachlesen und wenn ihr Fragen habt, euch auch immer bei mir melden. Genau, was ich vielleicht nochmal erklären möchte, ist, was ist eigentlich unser Programm, also das Rise to End Fossil Finance Programm. Also wir sind hier insgesamt für 3 Online-Trainings und wir sind aber auch in Kontakt zwischendurch immer mit E-Mails, wo wir euch nochmal sagen, hier, schaut euch das doch nochmal an, liest euch das mal durch oder unterschreibt hier diese Petition. Also auch so ein paar Online-Aktionen noch. Und das, worauf wir gemeinsam hinarbeiten, ist der 27. und 28.2. Und zwar wird am 28.2. der nächste IPCC-Bericht veröffentlicht zum Thema Klimafolgen. Und wir möchten dann gerne, genau, also die Botschaft der Klimafolgen an Deutsche Bank-Filialen bringen und mit euch dann aktiv werden und möchten gerne Aktionen entwickeln, die sowohl für 2 Personen gehen, als auch für 5 Personen, als auch für größere Teams, je nachdem, wie ihr so aufgestellt seid bei euch vor Ort. Und wir hoffen eben, dass viele von euch Lust haben, am 27. oder 28., das ist eben leider ein Montag, vor eurer Deutschen Bank eine kleine Aktion zu machen. Und insgesamt möchten wir eben ein Team aufbauen, was über das Jahr hinweg zusammenarbeitet. Also ein nationales Team, was sich immer wieder über Zoom trifft und in Arbeitsgruppen zusammensteckt und Ideen spinnt. Und wir wollen uns aber im Sommer auf jeden Fall auch mal persönlich treffen. Und eben Wissen vertiefen und neue Leute ins Boot holen, weil eben dieses Thema fossile Finanzen unglaublich wichtig ist. Und genau, einfach, es braucht mehr Leute, die sich zum Thema engagieren. Und warum das so wichtig ist, habt ihr in manchen E-Mails auch schon gelesen, ne? Also wie viele Billionen tatsächlich noch in die Industrie gesteckt werden von Banken. Und wir nehmen uns eben speziell die Deutsche Bank vor in Deutschland, sind aber Teil einer globalen Bewegung. Also es gibt viele verschiedene Gruppen und Organisationen, die sich dem Thema fossile Finanzen widmen. Und auch an diesem, oder habe ich die falschen Daten? Ah, nee, doch nicht. Auch rund um die Veröffentlichung des IPCC-Berichts gibt es eben verschiedene Regionen, die aktiv sind. Also manche auch ein bisschen früher, wie zum Beispiel im Pazifik gibt es einen Aktionstag, ein paar Tage vorher, bei dem sie vor allen Dingen den Bewegungsaufbau stärken wollen. Und die Botschaft verbreiten, Fossil Fuels did this. Also fossile Brennstoffe haben eben diese Klimafolgen verursacht. In Afrika zum Beispiel gibt es lokalen Widerstand gegen die Rohölpipeline EACOP, die auch die Deutsche Bank finanziert, die den Virunga-Nationalpark bedroht zu verschmutzen und natürlich furchtbare Klimaauswirkungen hätte. Und es gibt noch zusätzliche Aktionen, öffentliche Übergabe des IPCC-Berichts, aber auch eine Demo. Und in der Türkei wird es tatsächlich einen Start von Kampagnen gegen private Banken und deren fossiler Finanzierung geben. In Indonesien gibt es schon eine aktive Kampagne, da fokussieren sich die Aktionen rund um die Bank Negara Indonesia. Und genau, und weltweit gibt also unser Team von 350, aber auch andere Organisationen eben viele Webinare. Es gibt viele Online-Aktionen, wirklich in allen Regionen der Welt gegen fossile Finanzen. Und genau, es gibt Veranstaltungen für den Aufbau dieser Bewegung, wenn das nicht mal motivierend ist. Genau, und was ist eigentlich unser Ziel? Das wollte ich noch einmal ganz klar machen. Also wir möchten den Finanzfluss von Deutschland und Europa zu fossilen Unternehmen und Projekten weltweit unterbinden. Also wirklich diesen Geldhahn zudrehen. Und wie würde das eigentlich gehen? Also es braucht damit das klappt, braucht es tatsächlich eine Regulierung oder Reform des Finanzsystems. Also die Deutsche Bank zum Beispiel wird reguliert von der Europäischen Zentralbank, von Regierungen. Und wenn die eben es schwerer machen, fossile Investitionen zu machen, also Kredite zu vergeben und so weiter und so fort, dann müssen alle privaten Banken sich danach richten. Und das ist eigentlich unser Ziel. Deswegen ist die Deutsche Bank zwar unser Theater, also wo wir unsere Aktionen machen, wo wir auch die Entscheidungsträgerinnen zur Verantwortung ziehen, aber wir richten unsere Aktivitäten auch an die Europäische Zentralbank zum Beispiel, weil die eben den gesamten Bankensektor steuern kann. Und mit unseren öffentlichen Aktionen wollen wir eben fossile Banken stigmatisieren und zeigen, dass sie eben so Teil des Problems sind, wie eben die fossilen Unternehmen selber. Und Bewegungsaufbau ist da ein ganz wichtiger Aspekt, damit wir den Druck kontinuierlich steigern können. So, habt ihr dann Fragen dazu? Ich warte mal eine Minute. Ihr könnt euch entweder könnt einfach reinsprechen oder ein Sternchen in den Chat schicken. Okay. Wenn es dann jetzt keine Fragen gibt, dann würde ich weitergeben.
Ich hatte noch eine Frage. Ich habe für mich sehr Glück gefunden.
Jetzt habe ich
weil ich bei den ganzen anderen Seminaren jetzt nicht so viel dabei war. Du hast am Anfang so Slides geteilt, wo ein bisschen was über die Organisation drauf war. Könnten wir die Präsentation geschickt bekommen, dass wir das nochmal nachlesen können?
Genau, auf jeden Fall. Also wenn ihr euch alle bei diesem, also ihr habt euch ja alle bei diesem Programm angemeldet und dann bekommt ihr automatisch die Aufzeichnung und auch die Präsentation morgen oder übermorgen zugeschickt.
Danke.
Ja, perfekt. Genau.
Ich hätte auch noch eine kurze Frage.
Ja, bitte.
Gibt es konkrete Vorschläge, wie diese Regulation oder Reformen umgesetzt werden sollten?
Ja, also es gibt da verschiedene Ansätze. Einer ist zum Beispiel, das ist dann sehr technisch und finanziell, die Capital Buffer Requirements zu erhöhen. Also zum Beispiel kann die EZB entscheiden, dass wenn eine Privatbank oder irgendeine Bank einen Kredit an die fossile Industrie gibt, sagen wir von 1 Million Euro, dann muss diese Privatbank, nehmen wir an, das ist die Deutsche Bank, die diesen Kredit vergeben will, dann muss sie auch 1 Million Euro zurückhalten. Das wäre sehr, sehr teuer. Also dann müsste sie immer doppelt so viel Geld zur Verfügung stellen, sozusagen. Das ist so ein Mechanismus, worüber man das machen kann. Es gibt auch noch andere Mechanismen, aber das vielleicht jetzt erstmal so als Beispiel.
Ja, danke schön.
Gerne. Genau, und jetzt geht es eben um Artivism, also die Verschmelzung von Kunst und Aktivismus. Und da habe ich ein schönes Zitat gefunden von Humans for Future Berlin. Manche sprechen von kreativem Widerstand, andere von Kunstaktivismus oder politischer Kunst. Die Quintessenz des Artivismus ist die Verschmelzung von grenzenloser Vorstellungskraft der Kunst mit aktivem politischem Engagement. Und das fand ich ein sehr schönes Zitat, um euch einzustimmen. Und genau, jetzt würde ich übergeben an Theresa und auch auf Englisch sprechen. Wenn ihr also jetzt die Dolmetschen-Funktion nutzen möchtet, dann macht das gerne über Zoom. Wenn ihr technische Probleme habt, meldet euch im Chat. Und so I will now switch to English and see if Theresa is already there.
Yes.
Yes, great. And Theresa, so just a little summary. We have some dancers here among us who would be keen to integrate dance into their activism, and a lot of people with high motivation to fight climate injustice. And so I pass on to you to introduce yourself and also maybe share why, if there has been an event or something, why you have been becoming active and fighting for climate justice.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Shall I also share my screen?
Yeah, I can stop sharing mine. And
Yeah, I will do mine in a bit. Okay, thank you, Tina. Hello, everyone. Sorry I missed all your stories, but I don't speak German. I don't understand but my name is Teresa, and I'm based in Amsterdam. I originally come from Peru, but I've been living here in the Netherlands for a long time. And yeah, I became active in the struggle against climate injustices, the struggle for climate justice in 2014, when I moved to Peru because the COP, the climate summit was held there. That was the one before in Paris. So I actually became active because I was working as an artist before and getting very frustrated that my projects actually didn't change anything. So I came in contact with activists and I started learning about the strategies to create more concrete change. And I started like using these strategies in my artwork and the other way around as well, using my art for my activism. And what else is important to mention? I co-founded with Daniela Paes Leao, another artist, a group called Fossil Free Culture, the Netherlands. We've been active here since 2017, targeting the relationships between cultural institutions, and specifically museums in the Netherlands, and Shell, the biggest oil corporations of the Netherlands. And like that, we've been doing performance and actions, performative actions or action performances in the Van Gogh Museum until they dropped the sponsorship. And then we moved to the Concertgebouw, that's the biggest opera hall, until they also dropped. And then Nemo Science Museum, they also dropped. So at the moment, there are only 4 cultural institutions in the Netherlands accepting this money, because it's not acceptable anymore to be associated with oil companies. So that's been yeah, success, I guess. And so I will show you a bit of that, and I will share my screen and see here. So, okay. Let me see if it works okay. Yeah, so I prepared a little talk. What we are going to do today is I'm going to talk a little bit about what disobedient art is and give us a few examples of the principles that we have gathered along the way. And then we will zoom into what makes an action artistically powerful and politically effective. And then we will work a little bit on messaging around climate justice and try to combine all of this. So what do I mean with disobedient art? It's just a term that we use, but I mean, you could also call it artivism, art and activism, creative activism, cultures of resistance. There are many terms to talk about it's more of the combination, like really the merging, like bringing all these 2 things together into one practice. And so when you merge the aesthetics, the creative part, the artistic part, poetry, with all the strategic planning and tactics and organizing and mobilizing that we use for social change. And what is powerful about this is that you create an affective effect, that's how I call it, or effective affect, because art mobilizes the emotions, and that's the affective part. So the effect becomes affective, and activism mobilizes more like the brain, and well, depends on how you frame it, but it mobilizes both, it's like hearts and heads at the same time. And one of the first principles that I want to give you is forget about how you approach actions. Start by that, like ditching all the way you approach actions. Because what I normally see is when we try to do a creative action, is that we do a protest and hold boards but like try to make it look nice and be creative in that, which is, I mean, it's all fine. I'm not judging that, but what I'm talking about is about something different, about really integrating the art and activism. So not like that the artistic part or the creative part becomes a layer on top of it, or a layer that makes it look beautiful or makes it look nice, but more like part of it. So what I mean when I say don't think about actions, think about it as something else, as something completely different. You can think about an action as a party. This is an example of the movement Reclaim the Streets in the UK in the 90s. Their tactic was organizing parties on the streets, and like their parties were also blockades and were also protests, but they were parties, and they created this was also the beginning of the rave culture. So think about what else can you think? Think about metaphors, performance, a carnival, a conversation, poetry, a poetry circle, or music, a song, bringing a band together, dance, and what are the images and words that you want to use with that. So really forget about actions. It's not an action anymore, it's something else. Like this. This was one of the actions during the Reclaim the Streets. Was one artist walking on these, it's not like a scaffold, but like these very long wooden legs, and playing this instrument while confusing the police, while underneath her dress, activists were making holes on the pavement of the road to plant trees. So there were many things at the same time. Another principle is balance art and message. I think this is very important because sometimes we also go like artists that I mean, lots of art talk about politics and try to make the message as artistic, poetic as possible, but then it's not clear anymore. So when we talk about artivism or disobedient art, the artistic part and the very clear message that is very, you see it and you understand it, is super important. So think about this, like this is the most uninspiring banner and protest that you can see. Stop nuclear power. I mean, yeah, of course, but I don't get inspired or mobilized or emotionally, oh yeah, this is what I want. But I want something like this, like something that really moves you. This is Bansky, I don't know if it's a protest, but it's a very powerful image that really moves your hearts. And so this play about with the very clear message and an image that conveys that message at the same time. And also don't underestimate the power of symbols, because they are effective, they really move you, and effective at the same time. I chose one example very randomly, but I found it, I don't know, interesting. This was a protest in Lebanon in 2015. And it was called Walk a Mile in Her Shoes. So it was a protest against domestic violence against women, and men were invited to wear heels and walk the whole demo on her shoes. So I found it very beautiful to step in her shoes and literally doing that with that symbol, which of course can be confusing. I mean, high heels, I don't wear them, but yeah, but at the same time, I think it's powerful. And one example that one of the performances that we did at the Concertgebouw that uses a very clear symbol was at the opening of the opera season. And they organized these like incredible galas with like people wearing these incredible dresses. And we got 6 people got infiltrated in the building, and where we were dressed as waiters, and we served black champagne. So this is the symbol that they would use in this gala, champagne, to celebrate, but we made it black to bring the attention that there was nothing to celebrate, that we were mourning. And the 6 performers that took part were really very sadly mourning the end of humanity. We really got so infiltrated that the guests thought that it was real, and they took the champagne. Don't dress as a protester. Well, this is a line that I'm going to give you at the end, a link of where you can find more of these principles. It's in Beautiful Trouble. Maybe some of you know that book and website. And well, with this, I mean, try to look a little bit more further than how we activists normally would go to protests. And maybe you remember this one, because this happened in Hamburg. I use it as an example. In Hamburg in 2017, while the G20 was taking place, a group of artists organized, there was not a march, but it was 1,000 people walked on the streets wearing gray suits and like a bit clayish, a bit dry, and they acted as zombies. And at the end, they took their clothes off, and they had like colorful clothes inside them. And the message was something like encouraging people to take off their crusty shells. I'm reading it here, I found it. Take off their crusty shells of apathy and experience the awakening of political engagement. So this was really to engage and shake the G20. Another principle I want to give you is to escalate it strategically, because I also most of the times I see actions isolated from a strategy, which is also, I mean, it's great, but if you don't escalate, if you don't plan your actions one after the other, or think about what's the next activity they're going to do to achieve your goals, then most of the time it's a waste of energy, because it stays at one action and doesn't have a follow-up and doesn't achieve the goal that you want to see. And the example that I wanted to give you is the last intervention that we did at the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. We had done 7 performances in 2 years. And at the end of those 2 years, we planned 3 performances, one right after the other. And we called it an action storm. And this was the last one. And it was the biggest and boldest action that we did. We went inside with 40 people and had these pieces of paper that we hung in the stairs. This was 14 meters high. And we hung it, and it was well, I'm not going to show you the video because of time, but you can see it online, that it was really a struggle with security that pulled all these banners down and tried to rip them off. And we went down the stairs again, picked them up and pulled them up again until we completed the installation. And this photo really, it was only seconds that this image was on, because they ripped it off immediately after. And after this performance, a few weeks after, the museum announced that they dropped the sponsorship. And at that moment, we also recited a manifesto, and this woman standing on the staircase was reciting the manifesto, and we gathered a lot of public. So it was really an escalation for us. And now I want to zoom a bit, the last couple of minutes, into climate justice. And because this has always been important for me, but more and more. And I see more and more the relationship between the climate crisis and the neo-colonial crisis, which is actually the same crisis. And fossil fuel companies use exactly the same mechanisms as in colonial times. What do I mean with the apocalypse happened yesterday? In the West, we frame the climate crisis as something that is going to happen in the future, and but at the same time, while the temperatures are getting higher and the CO2 is like exploding in the atmosphere, so many cultures, so many ways of living, so many peoples and ecosystems are being destroyed by these companies. So it's really important to notice that it has already happened, but we don't see it in the West. It has happened in what we call the global South, what we don't see. So, for example, in Ogoni, in Nigeria, in 2000, this is a quote, in 2017, in the European Union, in Europe, there were only 10 incidents of spills in 40 years. So in 40 years' time, there were only 10 oil spills. In Nigeria, since the 70s, there had been 9,343 oil spills in only 10 years. So the disparity is incredible. It's not, I mean, I cannot make up my mind around it. And so these are the stories I think that we need to bring back over and over again. It's our responsibility as people living in the West to do so. So I'm going to show you one of the performances that we did around this Ogoni destruction by shell. This was the first performance at Nemo. It was in October. We commemorated 25 years since the murder of the 9 Ogoni activists in Nigeria. And Shell was complicit in this murder. So we carried 9 flames with 9 torches representing each of the activists that were killed. And we projected on the walls of Nemo a poem written by Ken Saro-Wiwa, who was one of the activists murdered, to honor and carry actually their struggle with us. And the last piece that I want to show you is Mapuche in Argentina, because this relates to the campaign that you're targeting, the Deutsche Bank. And they are financing fracking in Argentina. And with the ABP campaign in the Netherlands, I was involved in the fossil-free, the Netherlands campaign against the biggest pension funds, ABP. And they were investing also in many of the companies that are operating in the Patagonia, in Vaca Muerta, and in Mapuche land. So Mapuche is the name of the native people living there. And I'm not showing this as an example of artistic action, but we used projection of the stories of Mapuche's people, land defenders, defending their lands in Argentina, to make the connection between the pension funds, so citizens in the Netherlands as citizens in Germany putting their money in the bank, citizens in the Netherlands are like building their pensions, and their money is being invested in destroying the lands and lives of Mapuche people in Argentina. So this is the link that we wanted to make. And with this, I wanted to end this bit. I'm probably forgetting things, but I think it's good for now, because otherwise I'm talking too much. I'm gonna stop sharing and maybe have 1 minute for questions, if there are any. No?
I have a question, actually. So you do the Artivism only in special institutions that allow you to? Did you also have any experience with doing it on the street?
Yes. Well, all of these pictures that you've seen of our work with fossil free culture are not allowed. So we don't ask for permission to do the action. We buy our ticket as normal museum visitors and start doing our actions. That's why we call it disobedient art. And sometimes they ask us to leave the building, and sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. So we don't, when we don't, then it's a transpassing. So yeah, and we've done also actions in the streets, but I don't have pictures of that. But
I see, yeah.
But not with fossil free culture, with this collective, but with in other groups that I'm involved.
I see, yeah. Okay, thank you. And thank you for the presentation. It was very good presentation and very educational.
Thank you. Yeah, so if there are no, I mean, maybe later there we have more time for questions, but right now I wanted to give you a little exercise. We will put you in breakout rooms of, I think, 4 to 5 people each, and give you 10 minutes to discuss among yourselves this question: what makes an action artistically powerful and politically effective, or aesthetically powerful? And with aesthetics, I don't mean necessarily beautiful, because with aesthetics or art, we normally think about what is beautiful. But what I mean, and actually the word aesthetics comes from perception, comes from what is perceived by the senses. So think about aesthetics as what you perceive with your senses, that is not your brain, like your eyes, your hands, your touch, your smell, and I'm gonna paste the question on the chat. And yeah, is it clear? And I'm also gonna give you the link of the presentation in the chat, because I made a few slides. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna share my screen and show you. 1 second. Yeah. So if you can see at the end of the presentation, I made a few slides with one picture of the examples that I showed you, and a few sticky notes or post-its that you can use if you want. You also don't need to use them. And every slide has a number: group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in the discussion, think about generally what makes an action aesthetically powerful and politically effective, but also zoom in into this concrete example and what makes this example artistically powerful and politically effective. Okay? And then then you can gather all your ideas on this slide, and then we come back to the main room. Ines,
yeah, okay. I think Miriam will help put people into breakout rooms. Miriam, are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm just setting up the breakout sessions. Give me a minute.
Yes.
It would be nice if every group, because there were not so many, 5, shares in 1 minute the main insight. Try to make it super short, 1-2 sentences. Who would like to start? Group first. Makes it quicker. And I can share the screen so we can see if there was something. Someone worked on this one? Maybe not. Group 2? Someone would like to share very quickly?
Yeah, this was ours. So for this one, I think our main conclusion was that we had to be impressive and kind of particular, disturb the environment that was around to draw people attention was maybe the most important for the action itself. And then to make it politically effective, what we found or what we agreed on was to have nice pictures or just media that we would need to share afterwards. So either in social media, which would then kind of be shared by themselves if they look particular enough, like this picture there with the red heels, or just have, just have something in the papers and stuff with journalists.
Yeah, thank you. This group, the group 3, is there anyone that would like to share? You can also do it in German if you prefer, but
yeah, I can say something. No, I just forgot to translate it, sorry. Yes, well, we thought that it's good in that case that we have a public place and journalists are already present, so you can use the media attention, you can use the crowd. So that was effective in that way. And what made it powerful was also the symbolism, and we like to have something where you can have a little bit of fun and like an action where you, like if all the participants look back on it, it gives you not just a bad feeling, it's kind of interesting and maybe nice to remember. And that is also, yeah, powerful and effective.
thank you. Yeah, so very true. And this one? Is there anyone that would like to share? The action in Hamburg.
If nobody else wants to say anything, I can summarize it shortly. So I think the most important things that we agreed upon were that it needs to be, since it's artistic, it needs to be you need to be able to make pictures of it and videos that you can share on social media, but also with the press. So the media talks about it as well. So it needs to also be, you need to have contact with the media on your own terms, preferably. And at the same time, you need to have a political message directed specifically at one person, not just, oh, climate changes, we need to stop it, and climate injustice, but have it specific is better, about like a company or a person, and have that message very clear while still having it artistic.
Yeah, super. Thank you. And I think no one. Did someone work on this one? No. And also not this one. And so we probably made a smaller, less groups with more people, which is fine.
Maybe one thing that I would like to add, one thing that I found really politically effective is when decision makers are in the place where the action is. So, or when they hear about the action. So, for example, in the museums, there will always be staff working there who will then tell their bosses, "Oh my God, this happened again. It was all disruptive." And to the day-to-day routine, the media reported. And it's really good if the decision makers really hear from a person. If that's not possible, it's obviously really good to go over via the media.
And also to add on that, take one tip maybe, or principle, take inspiration from the context that you work with. So I think this is one of the things that you see in all the actions that I showed, that this context was the G20, this context was the gala opening season, this context was horribly domestic violence, yeah, so from the place or the time where you're working, there's so many information that you can take inspiration from, and like really tailor your tactics, whether that's an intervention, a poetry, an action, a performance. Tailor your tactics to those contexts. And so it's always very context specific. And now we had planned a little brainstorm session, but we are already, it's almost 8. So I don't know if people would like to stay a little bit longer, or we make it, I don't know, we close it.
Yeah, if you can stay longer, maybe you can put ++ into the chat like Miriam just did. And if you would like to do the other exercise, wenn ihr also länger bleiben möchtet, dann schreibt gerne ein Plus in oder 2 in den Chat, dann wissen wir, wer von euch länger da sein kann. Ja, Chris, kein Problem. Schön, dass du da warst. Bis bald.
Danke, tschüss.
And if others have to leave too, that's no problem. But I think we have a critical mass of people who would like to continue. So I'm fine with going a little bit over time. What about you, Teresa?
Yeah, also. And I can try to make the last exercise a bit shorter, because it's actually an exercise. I mean, this is not going to be perfect, but it's good to practice together. So in the next piece, in the next session, I wanted to zoom into message and tactic. So with tactic, I mean the form, whether it's a performance, a blockade, a sit-in, an intervention, a walk like this, a zombie walk in Hamburg. Yeah, think about the tactic as a form, and what is the message that you want to convey with that tactic. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a second, because I'd like to see you. So it's less confusing. So now we're in a bit, we're gonna go back to breakout rooms, breakout sessions, and I'm gonna give you an exercise. But first, I want to explain it, and because we're gonna brainstorm together again a little bit what kind of action or what kind of tactic we will use with the Deutsche Bank campaign against the fossil fuel finance, and think about what is the message that you want to convey. And with that, I would like to make you think about how can you make that message be very climate justice centered. So think about, for example, all the investments of the bank that go to Africa. Tine was telling me of the AECOP project, for example, the pipeline that is being built in Uganda and Kenya, or Vaca Muerta in Argentina with fracking, or projects that people are investing with their money in the bank, projects that we don't hear about. So how can you frame and create a message that is justice-centered, and think about a tactic that helps with that? And so this is a quick brainstorm. All ideas are welcome. I will give you again. We will go again into the PowerPoint presentation. There are a few slides with the name of the group, and there you can write if you want the ideas. And at the end of these 10 minutes, the idea is to have one description of what happened. Imagine that the action already happened. What is the line that you will see in the newspaper, the headline? What is the very, very clear message in 1 or 2 sentences? And what is the description? Think about this already happened. How many people were there? What did they do? At what time? And why did they do it? So think about the what, where, when, and why. The why is very important. And I'm going to show you one thing that I did with the I always lose my presentation when I have too many windows open. I'm sorry for that. Where is it? Yeah. Okay, so this is, but you don't have to do this. This is too complicated. But this is a little bit of this exercise, thinking about the performance that we did at NEMO with holding the 9 torches of the Ogoni 9 activists that were killed in Nigeria. So think about a headline. What happened? And then think about, this is a bit of a kind of a press release, but we just need like one headline and what happened in one paragraph. But you don't have to write it out. You can also just tell it among yourselves, but try to make the message as clear as possible and find a tactic that fits that message. Is it clear? And after this, you have like a few empty slides where you can work. But you also just can talk, because we will lose time if we want to write it out.
How much time do we have for this session?
I will give it 10 minutes. So then we have 5 minutes to share at the end, and then we can close the evening. Is that sounds okay? And it's really just an exercise. There's nothing, it's not good or wrong.
Okay, I will then start the breakout rooms. Oh, give me a minute. I need to resort some people because.
So, is there any group that would like to share any initial ideas?
I think we were a little unsure if we understood the exercise correctly, but we had the idea of in front of like a bank staging something with oil, having like oil canisters, for example, and then maybe lighting a fire and somehow symbolizing the destruction. We didn't get too far of like, how could you show the destruction that it brings? Like, we could have somebody from the bank or someone dressing up as the bank throwing money onto the fire, but we didn't get too far on like, how do we show the destruction? Do we just have people like lying around pretending to be dead, or can we have some symbols from like the actual people who are being killed? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good start. And Johan from group 2.
Thank you very much. I was trying to make sense out of these German sentences. So we had like 3 completely different ideas. One is to install a like a stand in front of the local Deutsche Bank place where you can get your money, like get your money out of Deutsche Bank. We are acting this on the streets, get your money out of Deutsche Bank, and then we carry it to the, I don't know, to a good place. It wasn't the first idea. Second idea is to make a tango action where in front of the Deutsche Bank, numerous people will use the area for dancing. We don't have a political message on that yet. The third idea is to show how Deutsche Bank is destroying the soil and living spaces in other parts of the world, to just start digging in front of a Deutsche Bank in Germany somewhere, or maybe to lay a pipeline or something, like do it theatrically on the streets. That's it. Thank you.
Wow. Those were lots of great ideas in like the most productive 5 minutes. Thank you. Was there a group 3, maybe? Yeah, Miriam?
No, my plus just meant to indicate that there was a group 3.
There was a group 3, yeah. Is there someone from group 3 that wants to share?
I don't know. I think I was from group 3. I'm actually unsure which group I was in.
Or group 1? Maybe we had less groups, or maybe people are tired also.
We are not sure about the task, and when we decided what we could do, it was finished. So, so it was not easy.
The confusion. I will find a moment for this to continue. Tina will find a moment. So Tina, I'll pass it over to you. Thank you very much for the invitation and for letting me share all this with you and hear all your brilliant ideas and enthusiasm. I'm really curious about where the campaign is going to go and how to make Deutsche Bank such a big fish divest from fossil fuels.
Yeah. I'm also really curious. Thank you so much, Teresa. This has been really inspiring and eye-opening also for me. Thanks a lot. I will switch to German again now. And also I will stop the live transcript. Okay, dann bin ich jetzt wieder beim Deutschen und ich teile noch einmal meinen Bildschirm für den Abschluss für heute. Okay, also was folgt hier raus? Also für alle, die gerne mit uns weitermachen wollen, und ich hoffe, das sind viele. Genau, gibt es dann noch ein paar nächste Schritte. Also einmal könnt ihr direkt heute Abend oder morgen könnt ihr gerne schon in eine Telegram-Gruppe kommen. Das ist eine Gruppe für Menschen, Aktive, die zum Thema fossile Finanzen arbeiten wollen in Deutschland. Und genau, die Gruppe gibt es schon eine Weile, weil wir im Oktober auch schon mal zusammen Aktionen gemacht haben. Und da, das ist auf jeden Fall ein kurzer Weg, um mit mir und mit uns in Kontakt zu bleiben und auch die nächsten Schritte zu planen für die Aktionen, wo wir hoffen, dass sie eben passieren vor der Deutschen Bank am 27. oder 28. Februar. Und wenn ihr euch selber vorstellen könnt, an einer Aktion teilzunehmen, oder eine kleine Aktion zu machen, selbst wenn ihr nur eine Person seid. Ich unterstütze euch da gerne. Wir geben euch gerne Ideen und praktische Hilfe, das dann umzusetzen. Und genau, meldet euch also auch gerne persönlich bei mir. Meine Nummer steht da. Und dann, genau, nachdem wir hoffentlich mit vielen zusammen aktiv waren, dann um den 28. Februar herum treffen wir uns nochmal für ein Online-Training zum Thema ein diverses Team aufbauen, weil wir möchten ja gerne ein langfristiges Team aufbauen, was in diesem Jahr zusammen arbeitet, und wir möchten auch sicher gehen, dass sehr unterschiedliche Leute zusammenkommen, um viele unterschiedliche Perspektiven zu haben und auch dadurch kreativere und effektivere Kampagnen machen zu können. Und was wir beim ersten Webinar schon gemacht haben, war ja die Verbindung von Klima und Kolonialismus stark zu machen und zu zeigen, was da wichtig ist. Deswegen sind wir auch natürlich besonders daran interessiert, mit Menschen zusammenzuarbeiten, die von Neokolonialismus betroffen sind oder da irgendwie eine eigene Geschichte drin haben. Und genau, und dann wollte ich euch noch darauf hinweisen, dass es ein Präsenztreffen gibt zur Vernetzung, europäischen Vernetzung für Leute, die zu fossilen Finanzen arbeiten wollen. Und das ist ein Treffen, das findet auf Englisch statt. Das ist Teil von einem größeren Strategietreffen von Climate Justice Action Network am Freitag. Also das findet das ganze Wochenende statt, aber am Freitag, dem 11. März, gibt es dann so ein kleines Treffen eben nur für Leute, die zu fossilen Finanzen sich koordinieren wollen. Und da lade ich euch auch herzlich ein. Also das ist wirklich auch eine Möglichkeit, persönlich Leute kennenzulernen, sich inspirieren zu lassen, europaweit zu vernetzen. Es sind auch 2 Mitarbeiterinnen von 350 dabei, ich leider nicht persönlich, aber es haben auch schon einige angekündigt, aus Deutschland hinzufahren, zum Beispiel von Fossil Free, Lüneburg 2, aber auch andere, die hier bei dem Programm schon mitgemacht haben. Und genau, wenn ihr da dran teilnehmen möchtet, dann kann 350 die Reisekosten bezahlen und alles, was so anfällt. Und ihr könnt gerne den Link zur Anmeldung folgen. Also morgen schicke ich euch ja die Präsentation und euch dann da anmelden. Ah ja, Miriam schickt es auch schon im Chat. Und genau, ich sehe gerade, Theresa muss schon gehen. Theresa, have a really nice evening and thank you so much. Bye bye. Genau, also das ist so das, was gerade ansteht. Also schreibt mir gerne eine Nachricht, wenn ihr zu diesem Präsenztreffen hinfahren möchtet nach Venedig. Dann koordinieren wir da alles Weitere. Genau, und dann auch morgen in der Präsentation und vielleicht kopiert Miriam den auch nochmal in den Chat. Also wir haben auch einen Aktionsleitfaden zusammengestellt, weil wir auch wissen, es ist jetzt gar nicht mehr viel Zeit bis zum 28. Februar, da noch eine eigene kreative Aktion auf die Beine zu stellen, das Material herzustellen, ein Team aufzubauen und so. Das ist wirklich knapp, besonders wenn man noch keine feste Gruppe hat. Und deswegen haben wir eine Aktion vorgeschlagen, die ihr alle relativ einfach machen könnt, und zwar könnt ihr Klimafolgen zu einer Deutschen Bankfiliale in eurer Nähe bringen. Es gibt fertige Bilder, die ihr ausdrucken könnt von Klimafolgen, zum Beispiel Dürren oder Überflutungen oder Brände. Und die kann man großformatig ausdrucken und da gibt es auch eine Anleitung zu. Und wenn man ganz mutig ist und Lust hat, kann man natürlich die Bilder an die Fenster der Deutschen Bank kleben. Meistens sind Banken ja sehr, haben oft Glasfassade oder man kann es auch auf die Mauer kleben, an die Wand kleben. Und den Aktionsleitfaden gebe ich gleich noch frei. Ich sehe gerade, dass er noch nicht freigegeben ist. Oder ihr könnt eben auch das weniger konfrontativ machen und einfach auf ein großes Pappschild machen und dann wie so ein Banner oder eben wie so ein Demoschild tragen und dann entweder eine kleine Mahnwache anmelden oder einfach nur mit einer Freundin hingehen, eben ein Selfie machen. Ne? Also das kann man auch ganz, ganz unkompliziert machen und wir würden uns total freuen, wenn ihr dabei seid. Genau, zu dieser Taktik, also diese Poster ausdrucken und dann ankleben und so, gibt es auch noch ein Video, das ihr euch angucken könnt. Das ist 12 Minuten lang, das könnt ihr euch einfach in Ruhe anschauen. Und jetzt läuft es schon, das will ich gar nicht. Und genau, ich habe noch eine kleine Abschlussrunde. Das geht hoffentlich ganz schnell, wir sind gar nicht mehr so viele. Da würden wir die Aufzeichnung jetzt beenden, Miriam. Und